Howdy, I'm Jason, and today on Auto Edits, I'm going to be bringing you in from the garage to my edit bay, or my office here, and show you the basics of editing 101, equipment, programs, and a few techniques. So to get started, let me show you the equipment that I use right now. This is an Alienware 13 R3. I used to use an Alienware 18, and that thing is amazing. That 7-year-old laptop, well, they call it a laptop, but it's mostly a mobile computing station. That computer has been amazing. The limiting factor on that is size for portability, and it's 1920 by 1080 screen. This thing right here, let's take a quick peek under the hood of this thing. It is a remarkable little hot rod here. As you can see here, it's an Alienware 13 R3. This has the Intel i7 6.7 gigahertz processor, 32 gigabytes of RAM. So the bottom line is, do you need a laptop that has this much power? No, you don't. But do you want it? Yeah, absolutely, because here's the benefit of having a really powerful laptop for editing. It actually makes a fantastic gaming laptop. So you go back and forth. Do you want to do a little bit of or a lot of gaming and editing? Well, guess what? Those two things go hand in hand. So this, as you guys know, I'm a huge Alienware fan, has been an absolute great little laptop here. What else do you need to do some editing? You need storage. Now I have this G-Speed RAID here. It's I think a 14 or 15 terabyte RAID tower. And then you just continually add to that, and you want to add, like, I'll put a link in the description to a guy who has a really great system of building those things for cheap, because that thing was probably 1,500 bucks, so it's really expensive. And then ways to give yourself backup or redundancy. So those are good things to keep into account. But now that we've got the hardware covered, let's talk about the layout. I have a laptop here. Since this is a smaller laptop, it doesn't have a 10 key, so you'll see that I have a USB 10 key, and that just is helpful for me when I'm editing. I actually like to edit numbers faster there, or enter numbers faster there than I do on the screen here, and that's just kind of nice. And then I have what's called a client monitor here. So now that you've gotten a look under the hood of this beautiful little hot rod of a laptop, let me talk to you about the software that I use. I use Avid Media Composer. And that's because I've used this for several years now. Like when I was actually working in the television business, this is the software that most companies use. You know that show Roadkill that you love so much, and some of those shows on Motor Trend? They use this software, and that's what I used when I was working there to work on those shows. So this is an industry standard software, but here's an important point that you should keep in mind about editing software. It doesn't matter what you use, whatever you get your hands on, it's kind of like a Chevy, Ford, Dodge, whatever. They all do the same thing. They make this moves media around in a timeline that you can access and easily manipulate. Some of the reasons I am glad that I stuck with Media Composer and have bought it for my own use here at home are because it's super powerful. You could cut all the way up to a feature film with it, or like you see on my YouTube channel, pretty much home movies. You could do everything on it, and that's what I like about it. Yet it's very powerful, and yet still kind of easy. But there's plenty of other software on the market that you could use. Use whatever you get your hands on. This one you could get a hold of for, I think they have it 300 bucks for students if you're a student, so if you're a young person starting out editing. But the benefit of starting out on this program is that if you were to ever want to get a job, this is the software that you would want to be really good at. They also, like, the license for just an average schmo is about $1,100 or $1,200, or they have that monthly fee thing that everybody wants to do. I'm not a big fan of that. I just want to own my software, so this is what I use. So we will be going into the Avid Media Composer on my laptop, and so here you go. The interface is almost infinitely modifiable. You can actually change colors, put background, skins, whatever. I just haven't taken the time to do that, but you can. So here's the basic interface. Here you'll have a source monitor, and this is where you actually look at clips. So there's a clip. So you have these little bins. So these are like the memory card that you bring in, your GoPros and whatever. you digitize those, and you organize those into bins like this, and there you go. So then there's that footage right there, maybe in a dork next to the truck. Then you find the little piece of that. We're going to go into a little bit more in depth in a moment of that. And then this would be your timeline, and this is where all of the manipulation of the media happens. And so we'll go into a little bit more detail here in a minute, but I'm just giving you a quick overview, a sightseeing tour of the program. Once you get into the software is where you really actually can have fun with it. You just start clicking, I just start clicking these things and dropping down bins and looking at options and things, and go into the tools thing, and you can see all of these different things. Now, one of the things I like having up all the time is this. It's the audio mixer, and as you can see, the audio mixer kind of just shows you the volume of all of the different tracks. Now let's zoom in here. So now we'll get into a bit of the basics of the editing process, or how to lay stuff down into that timeline. So if you notice here, there's V1, V2, video channel 1, video channel 2, so you could layer. Now some people are very intricate in their timelines, and they layer things up for days and days. I don't really do that. My edits are very straightforward, so I don't have to do that. And you'll notice here, I have these little clips up here on video channel 2, and if you notice, I'll click this little thing, and this shows me that video line right there. And so that's what's happening underneath that one. And then go back to this one here. Now, gosh, I can't even believe I've been doing this. There's multiple ways even to operate your second monitor. Like, I just like having that space. In my desktop scenario, I actually have 3 monitors, and I will have this screen as its own monitor. I'll have an entire monitor just for this right here. Now see, having one screen here, you are limited space-wise, obviously, so you'd have to layer things, and so you have to get used to that. So right now, if you can see, I have to tuck that back behind there when I start looking at my source and record footage here, but you just get used to that. But on my desktop, where I have 3 monitors, this will be on its own monitor, and then I have this right here as a client monitor. Now, client monitor just means that is where your output video goes. So you can see that. So that is just the way I like to edit. I like to have a full-size thing. I don't want to just count on this little video here. It just is comforting to me. So I actually make room, make do with a smaller screen here edit-wise, and just like that going on in my peripheral vision, and I can just sit back. So I'll sit here and I'll make some edits, and then so that's just nice to have. So now I'm going to put my glasses on, since I'm at that age, and we're going to just dig in, and I'm going to deconstruct this timeline here of the road trip video to give you an example of how to just manipulate and move media around inside the Avid Media Composer. Now, that's one of the things I actually like about the Avid, is that it's really easy for me to do that. So like, say right now, you see these are just the hundreds and hundreds of clips here all strung together, and that's the timeline. Like, watch, I'll just hit play just right in here, and you'll see.
So at this point, I was feeling pretty good about this whole shindig, gathered up my junk, and headed on down the trail.
So there you go. So that's playing. Let me zoom in on that little section there. Just zoom in on that. You can move your timeline around. This is just all part of the. Now, one of the great things I've noticed with the touch screen is that you could do this now instead of using your mouse. It's pretty rad. So let's give that a quick. You can see in this blue line is the playhead. So that just shows you what is exactly playing at that moment. Now, as a quick, so every time you see a line like this is a cut or a new piece of media. And so watch what I'll do here. This is a segment mode, and it's lift overwrite. So that right there, and I have that programmed to my A key, so I can just do that without even having to use my mouse to go over here. And you could just grab that clip, and now that grabs the clip with the audio, and that's the video, and you can now move that around, put it wherever you want. So let's say we want to put it over there. And we don't want to put it over there, but just shows you how easy it is to manipulate and move stuff around. So, and then obviously that's not where you want that. So Control Z, undo, slaps it right back there. But it's just giving you an idea of what you're actually doing here. So now what I want to do is let's just kind of grab this whole sequence and we'll just move. I'm just going to lasso that whole thing, and that's going to grab it, and I'm just going to drag it down here so we can jump in over here and look. So now you can see here, this is this little opening montage that I built. And that's what all these clips are. And these little clips here are just little motion effects. And so those are where I sped the video up a little bit. And then these are the music tracks. So how does that happen? Let me show you how I would do a montage. So I go in to my music. So let's open the bin here of music. The program I use, let's do a quick thing on that. I use Sonic Fire Pro. And this is a cheap program. I think it's $60, and then you could buy, usable music for your edits, and they have this huge catalog that you just kind of sift through. I mean, it's massive. So you could just buy CDs, or you could buy them piecemeal right off of their website. So this is a handy dandy little program. So then I'll get my music. So here are a few pieces of music, and when you open those up into your source monitor, so that's the basics of this style of editing. You have a source and a record. So this is your source monitor. Now that's black because there's no video there, but there's a music track. So that's our music playing. So you would set an in point, set your levels, and then you would make that edit. So right here, it's just as simple as assign 2 tracks of audio. It's a left and a right stereo track. And you now go down here, you mark an in point and an out point, or if you want, you just mark a long, just to slap it down there. So we can lay that in by coming up here and clicking Overwrite or Insert. And if you hit Insert, or Splice in, I should say, it actually it moves everything in the timeline down. Let me zoom out here so you can see that. I'll undo. And I have these 2 keys here. Instead of using my mouse to come and do all this all the time, I have those programmed down here on my keyboard, and that was what I was showing you earlier to just speed this process up. So if you hit Splice in, watch what happens down here. It slides your whole timeline down, and actually exactly what it does, it splices it in and inserts that. So the other option, so I'm going to hit undo that. Now we can zoom back in. Now I'll zoom back in. Now if I hit the overwrite, it actually just it overwrites that just to the tracks that I have assigned here and doesn't affect the rest of the timeline. So those are just basic editing things that you'll just start learning. All of the edit programs are similar in that respect. So you have an insert or you have an overwrite. So those are the things that's whatever's appropriate for the times. Like if I'm doing something later on in here, I don't necessarily want to overwrite. I want to insert something in here, and that's how I would do that. So let's go back to the beginning here, and then just work on this little montage. So here you go. Right, we got some cool music going there. So here's where I just grabbed a few shots. Now what I'll do is I'll just lasso those, and then that automatically in the Avid, that automatically gets me into segment mode and grabs them, and I can slide those right to the beginning, and you'll see that is the kind of, I didn't spend a lot of time on this montage, as you could tell. Now let's go ahead and grab this and slide this up here, and so you just would keep building it and see how that goes. And so this would be me talking, or the host talking. So what you would want to do at that point, now again, this is one of those things where there's 3 different ways to accomplish stuff. There's a way to go in and just set a keyframe and lower the music down. This is the way I like to do it. I will go in and then just highlight the music track here, so you see that there, and I'll put an add edit. And as you notice, that just makes another edit out of this instead of one long clip. Let me undo that. So right on the playhead, it makes a add and adds an edit there. So now we have an edit there. So from there, that distinguishes this as a clip and this as a clip. And I will now turn down. Now here's another quick way to do this. I just hit this, and this groups those two clips together. So every time I move the adjuster here, they both move. If you don't, then you actually have to come in here and adjust each of these equally. And that's a pain because when you're doing this a bunch, it's just easier to group them together like this. So now that music clip here is at -10, so that's just a level. And we want to lower that down to go underneath my voice here. So I will do that at minus, let's try 30. Okay, that's about right. So -10 to -30. It's actually a little extreme at -10. So it's a little louder than what I'd like. So let's see. Yeah, that sounds good. Now that if you notice, that's a really harsh transition because at that moment it goes from -15 on the meter here to -30. So what I do is I add a transition, and these are the quick transitions in the Avid. Again, all softwares have that. This is great because I programmed it to my tab button here. And on centered on cut, we'll just do a 24 frame. Since I'm editing at 24 frames, we'll do a 1 second transition. And boom, now watch. That'll do a nice gradual.
Howdy, I'm Jason Lewis.
So I hear that ramp underneath, and now I'm jibber-jabbering up here. So that's pretty cool. So that's the basics of laying music underneath audio in your timeline. Now, if you notice, there's no audio under the montage because it's just beauty shots of the truck out there. So let's move on deeper into this thing and show you a little bit of that. Okay, so now let's get into the meat of the timeline here, and I'll show you a little bit of what's going on here and some of the other really powerful things about the Avid that I really like. So we have our opening intro stand up here. We have this doofus up here talking. And so what we'll do is let's just grab, so I just lasso that, as you can see, and then I can add select by hitting shift there, and we'll just drag this down. Put this in place here. We'll zoom in, make sure we got that. So if you notice right here, as I was dragging that in, there's that little gap right there. So I'm just going to move that 1 frame. Boom, that's together. I'll get out of that mode. Okay, now here's another really powerful tool about this. So if you want to trim, so learning these basics. Now, whatever software you get, just dig into it, learn all of the little tricks and ways to go about things. Now, this is a really powerful thing about the Avid. It has the best trim tool of all of the software I've used. So any of them, by far, this is the best. It's so powerful. You could come in here and you could see where these little pink rollers are is where media will start to merge, and this gets really complex and complicated. I've done some amazing ones where I'm moving this row of audio in and the video over, so it's kind of fun, and you can get into a lot of trouble here, but also it's very easy. Right now we just want to extend this bit of music that we laid in up into this transition here. So I just put the pink rollers on that, and I will just drag those over. Boom. That's it. Pretty rad. Now we have a group of clips here kind of stacked together to kind of start getting us in motion. So as you notice, I have the engine starting here, and you can see the audio of all of these different things, the settings. You can see I have the engine, my voice, the music still going in the background. And you notice that I'm manipulating the voice and the music here and getting those levels right. So that way none of the music or the sounds fight each other. You have to adjust that, and that's what you're seeing here. Now, here's a fun little trick. Once you get going on these things, now here, as you notice, I'm driving and I have multiple GoPros on the truck, and I want to be able to cut back and forth from those. Now, that's a fun thing about having a more powerful editing software like the Avid here, is that you have group clips available. So now in my little bin here of of footage. Now you'll see that's my, like I organize it to where you can see it. It's Osmo, that's my main camera. Grouped clips, now that is exactly what we're looking at right now. And that's when you have your GoPros, your audio that you can group together. And then those, what those do, it gives you a way to sync all those together. You might have remembered in my how to shoot video, I show you how to sync those by honking the horn. This is exactly what that looks like. So you have your multiple cameras and your audio all together. Then now you make a grouped clip out of that, and then check this out. See that? You have all of your cameras, and you could just pick from which one you want to edit from or see the video of. That likewise works when you're in the timeline here. So once you lay that clip in the timeline, you now hit group clips to look at the clips, and these are the 3 cameras I get to choose from as I'm doing this. And you can actually go to camera A, go to camera B, go to camera C. Look at that. That's pretty cool, right? And if you notice, it actually makes an edit right there in the timeline of you making that camera change. Pretty cool, right? And that's how I do it. I'll just kind of watch it and feel it out and kind of see what camera works where. If you haven't seen this video of me taking wrong turns on the Miller Jeep Trail and just thrashing the truck up there, go watch it. It's pretty good. I think so. It's pretty fun. So that's the basics of the multicam. And that, again, is just another example of why having a more powerful edit software really makes a difference for you. And that's the basics of moving footage around your timeline. It's a matter of, from now, it's just practice. But what I wanted to convey in this video is just to pick an editing software, get it on your computer, and then start moving footage around. First, go capture it, obviously. Go watch my other video on learning how to catch better footage. And then once you get it into your computer, then have fun with this process. You just sit in here, you weave the tale together, and you make good stories. And that's what I love about this process. So hopefully this will get you going and get you started at manipulating footage around. Don't be afraid. Get out there, get yourself some sort of software. I love the Avid software, so I recommend that. It's what I've used forever, and if you what if you want to start doing this more on a higher level, then you'll already know how to use this thing. So do I recommend it? Yeah, buy a lot. This is the way you want to go. But start using these techniques to craft your story. That's what I love about this, is telling stories. And have fun. Get in here, have fun, edit some stuff. I can't wait to see some of the stories that you guys make. Share with me in the comments. Let me check it out. And until next time, enjoy your drive and your editing. Catch you next time. Open Steam. Play Half-Life. Bye for now.